Okay, welcome. We have a very interesting program tonight. So I will reveal all these wonderful things gradually. Full program tonight. And but before we do our meditation, I would just like to tell you about our own little miracle that happened today. As you know from the newsletter, we've just started a honey importing and selling business. We call it the Art of Honey. We have a lot of fun with it. And we've, in the last few days, introduced the beginning of our Spanish honey to add to our Ukrainian honey. So we're starting with lemon and orange honey from the mountains just near our house in Spain. So this is rather lovely. And Kamala has been out for the last 10 days trying to introduce the honey to different shops. And it hasn't been going so well in terms of getting orders. A lot of people like it, but they haven't been ordering it so quickly. And then today she got the biggest order we've got so far in the honey business, about 650 euros. And then when she came back tonight, was our first internet shop order. If you look on the site, you'll see you can order the honey through the internet. We'll send it to you. So this was a particularly exciting moment because in one day I think we sold about 700, 800 maybe of honey after many days of not selling anything and getting slightly concerned, I could say. So this is very, very lovely because we're very happy with this new studio. Okay, so much for that. So let's do our meditation. So I ask you to sit comfortably. And to close your eyes. And to look inside. So as you look inside, bring your attention to whatever is strongest. Can be thoughts, can be emotions, Okay, so keeping your eyes closed, take another look. And again, bring your attention to whatever is the strongest. What feeling, what is sensation. Okay, so let's take another look, a final look. And this time, give yourself permission to fall deeper inside. Can we do the slideshow? Huh? Okay, so you can come back into the room, into the Zoom. Okay, so perhaps somebody would like to share what happened during the meditation. If you'd like to, you can just wave your hand and then I will see you. I discovered last week that I don't always see the little red hand. So it's better you wave your hand, then I see you immediately. I don't see any hands waving. I'll have to choose somebody. Come on, Raj, what do you reckon?
There's Michael.
Michael? Where's Michael? Okay, Michael. Ah, okay, you got your hand up. Yeah, it's not easy to see this. Better when you wave your hand, guys. I can't see this little yellow thingy. Anyway, go ahead. Nice to meet you. We're not hearing you though, Michael. Maybe you can turn on your. Can you help him out? Maybe.
Michael, es sieht so aus, als würde dein Mikrofon nicht gehen. Also wenn du mal in den Zoom-Einstellungen guckst, unten links auf dem Mikrofonsymbol ist ein kleiner Haken neben dem Mikrofon. Und wenn du da drauf gehst, als Mikrofon das auswählen, was bei dir funktioniert, erfahrungsgemäß.
Hört ihr mich jetzt?
Ja, jetzt geht's, super.
Okay, what I like to share is that something happened again, which has been happening quite often recently when I meditate. I'm relatively new to meditation, one year approximately, and in the beginning it didn't happen, but recently it started that my head began moving involuntarily.
Right.
It just moves. First began moving to the right, and and then back again in normal position. And today it was like it went up and then down and up again. And I was very focused on that experience because it is very pleasant.
Right.
And
right.
So that was the main thing that was going on.
Right. But maybe the main thing wasn't so much the movement. You know, you mentioned that it was very pleasant.
Yes, it was pleasant.
Does that mean that there wasn't so many thoughts? That in fact, what was pleasant was that it was very quiet inside?
It began with thoughts, but when the head began moving, the thoughts went away, and the movement was in the foreground. Right.
Okay, and were you particularly aware of the movement, or you were particularly aware of the nice feeling and the emptiness and the silence and so
on? Difficult to say. I think both, because I'm always wondering what's happening because it's new, and it's
okay, right,
and it's quite unusual, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on, but
okay.
On the other hand, I enjoy the movement and the stillness along with it.
Right. Well, I think, you know, you say you've been meditating for a year, but I mean, for you, I mean, everybody's very different, of course. And for you, obviously, a year is actually quite a good length of time. And I would say you're now getting a very good benefit with the meditation. So you're coming into a essential part of yourself. We call it I mean, you can call it God, actually. You can call it your essence. In India, it's called the self. And the criteria of that is that you feel very peaceful, you feel empty. As you say, there aren't many thoughts. And if there are thoughts, they're kind of passing in the background of that space. So they don't really disturb anything. And probably you feel a kind of space without borders, a sort of infinite space. And usually, you know, it's such a pleasant feeling that we don't want to change it. We're completely happy just to stay there. Is that any of that your experience?
That's the case, yes.
Right. So you hit the jackpot, you know, that's the jackpot. And the movement of your head, I would say, is not particularly important. I mean, the movement of your head is basically because you're very empty, and therefore there's a lot of energy starting to move through your whole system. And that strong energy is moving your head, moving it maybe back, maybe it's moving sometimes on the side, maybe more likely to go back. So you don't really need to be so concerned by the movement, but it's like how can I say? It's like the divine wisdom is moving your head, you know, or God is moving your head, or your essence is moving your head. Instead of normally in your life, Michael is moving the head. So you're very familiar with Michael moving his head, you know, you move to the left, you move to the right, but now suddenly other kinds of movements you're not familiar with are happening. And then you're wondering, you know, what's happening. But actually, I would say you don't have to worry about that. I mean, it can be when you continue meditating regularly that these movements could get even stronger. And then you need maybe to prepare yourself that, you know, you're sitting with kind of soft stuff around you in case your head goes right back. You don't want to hit your head on something. So you might want to sit on a couch with some cushions around you. So it's quite possible that some kind of movement can happen. And that is merely confirming that you're coming to this space of the self. And therefore, it releases a lot of energy, because normally we're very much involved with our mind. And this mind activity kind of creates a how can you say it? A kind of pressure cooker effect. It holds our energy. And when you're now meditating for a longer time, there isn't that pressure cooker. There isn't that kind of pressure on you. And so the energy is moving through you. And I think you'll find that this will all increase as you keep going with your meditation. And nothing to be concerned. It's actually very beautiful.
I like that explanation. Thank you. But I'm not really concerned. I was just wondering like interested in what is happening or what could be happening.
Right.
That's all. But I was not concerned because it's pleasant. I've been thinking that it must be something good, not something bad, not something harmful.
No, it's very good, very good. And I mean, you speak very good English. Are you English? Are you speaking from England, or you're in Germany?
No, I'm German. I'm actually I live in Cologne.
Oh, you live in Cologne? Oh, very
Yes.
close. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, maybe have you ever been to our community?
Not yet. No, I found it in the internet, and I registered for the retreat on the 12th to 14th of November.
Oh, good. Yeah, we're having a meditation weekend. Yeah. Good. Yes. Oh, we'll see you then. That's nice. If you live so close, you should definitely visit us. Yeah. So probably we're a community of, at the moment, 18 people living in a big old mansion on the bank of the Rhine. We're going to show some pictures of that. Oh no, we're not going to show some pictures of that tonight. But anyway, you'll see us anyway in a couple of weeks. Yeah. Good. Okay, very nice to meet you. Yeah. And have you been living in Cologne for a longer time?
For all of my life, I was born here.
Because you know we've been living here for the last 16 years. So it's also very interesting. You see that now you're American, you're having this experience, and then somehow you found us, even though we've been living for 16 years. So it's very interesting how things work. So you probably looking for some kind of understanding, some kind of support.
Sorry, the sound is very bad at the moment.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't get the last few sentences.
Okay, yeah. We've got a problem in our house actually. I think maybe some of the people have to go off the program tonight. Yeah.
Now it's okay again.
Now he can hear me, but he couldn't hear me before. So we have a lot of people in our house all wanting to be part of the meeting, and they're taking too much juice at the moment. I was saying that, you know, it's interesting you find us now, see, because we've been here 16 years, and now you've been meditating for 1 year, and you've clearly come to a good situation now where you're really connecting to your own essence. And then it's like your essence is connecting, if you like, to our essence, because actually there's only one essence. So this is fairly beautiful. I was telling earlier about this little miracle today with the honey that, you know, I've been saying, you know, what are we going to do? We're not selling the honey, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly in one day we get a very big order. And at the same time, we get our first order through our online shop. So this is a little bit interesting, I would say. I mean, maybe not for you, but anyway, for us, it's interesting. Yeah. So welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe somebody else. Where are we? Anybody else like to share something? If you want to share, just wave your hand because I don't see the graphic hand. Okay, Madhu.
Добрый вечер, слышно меня?
Да.
Ну, я могу только присоединиться к Майклу, потому что, да, с моей головой тоже происходит очень часто во время медитации. Это вот обычно вот так вот. Вот. Ну,
I would say that I had the same feeling, and I'm yes, and I also with my head it's like moving like that during the meditation. So
Right,
да.
right. We're all nodding together. So Madhu is sitting down in the south of Ukraine, and Michael is sitting in Cologne, and maybe some of the other people are also nodding their heads. So it's quite interesting that this is a kind of common phenomena.
можно сказать своего рода как феномен, потому что мы все киваем в разных частях мира. Маду сидит на юге Украины, Майкл в Кёльне, а мы где-то здесь еще в другом месте, так что, в принципе, можно сказать, одинаковое кивание происходит.
And Michael and Madhu, and anybody else, if you're interested in this phenomena, you can go to YouTube, where we have posted a film we made called Satori.
Так что, Майкл и Маду, если вам интересен, в принципе, этот феномен, вы можете, в принципе, зайти на YouTube и посмотреть видео, там мы запостили под названием Satori.
And there you can see this phenomena in a kind of extreme way.
Так что, в принципе, вы можете поглубже окунуться вот в этот феномен с тем, что происходит.
Yeah. And there's another film on the internet, I think it's called Vichara, Glimpses, Satori Glimpses, I think we call it.
А другой фильм — это Виджая, «Проблески». В принципе, мы его смотрели тоже, как-то помню.
And Vichara is from Ukraine, and in the other film is Indira, who is in Zoom meeting tonight?
Там девочка из Украины, а другая это Индира, которая, в принципе, здесь тоже на зоне.
Right. Okay, so I think, are you ready to show this slideshow?
Yeah, we can show it now, yeah.
Okay, so I have something a little bit lovely to show you. It's as I've been saying every week recently, I'm working on this new material from Ramana Maharshi. And the good news tonight is we've just had a meeting and decided that Open Sky Press is going to publish a book, a selection of edited bits selected from the manuscript. And that will happen probably quite quickly. And tonight we've put together a slideshow with some very beautiful music. And it has the core teachings of Ramana Maharshi in quotations. So I thought we might see that. It's about 3 minutes, I think. And then afterwards, I might ask you to tell me which of the quotations really touched you the most. And then I could talk something about those quotations. Okay, let's go ahead. Okay, thank you. So this was just completed a few minutes ago, actually. And the course of the last, I guess, 2 weeks now, I've edited about 24 texts, which you can find on my blog. Most of them will be up tonight. I think there's about maybe 16 of them are up, and we have a few more to go up tonight. So they're all on the blog, and also Om has started a new page. You can find it on the main menu on my website. It says Ramana and Papaji. And when you click on that button, you get a home page where you can choose Ramana or Papaji. And on the Ramana side, we have these blogs all put together. So this is a really quite beautiful resource. And I would strongly recommend everybody to read those transcripts. And we're going to turn those transcripts into a book, which will be put up on Amazon. It will be an iBook. We won't be printing it in the beginning. And here's the page, you see. So we have Ramana Maharshi and Papaji. And there's the reference. And if you click on the Ramana side, then you get this Aham Sparana, and you get many of the edited transcripts. So this is a wonderful treasure that has appeared in the last few months on the internet. I think it was first appearing in August, so it's only a few months ago, August, September, October. 3 months ago, maybe it appeared, and I was alerted about a month ago to this, and I was immediately touched, and so I can say something is really happening. And personally, it's very beautiful because I often feel a really deep connection with Ramana Maharshi. In reading these texts, I often feel I'm in his meeting about 85 years ago in 1936. So this is very powerful, actually. Okay, so would anybody like to offer one of those quotations? Did anybody get particularly touched by any of the quotations? I mean, I would like just to say a few words about one of them because of what Michael had been saying. So there was a quotation that said something like, the mind is creating a kind of barrier, and when you remove the mind, the energy can move. And so that quotation, I would say, is exactly explaining what this phenomena that Madhu and Michael were talking about tonight. And somehow this is the effort that we're making. We're making the effort to let the mind gradually disappear, and so then the energy can move through our system. So this is the work. This is why we meditate every day 2 or 3 times, because gradually, the mind becomes less and less strong, less and less powerful. And as it becomes less and less powerful, we have more moments when we can touch our essence. So many of you now have glimpses. We call them glimpses. It's like, you know, looking up at the sky, looking at the blueness of the sky. And it's one of those days when the clouds are passing by, and then we get glimpses of the blueness. So we know the sky is blue, but we can't always see it because of the clouds passing by. So in the same way, the thoughts are passing by in our mind, and by passing by, they block us having a direct connection to the self. So as we meditate over a longer time, we find that this movement of clouds kind of thins out. So today when I looked up, it was a complete solid white mass of cloud. But very often, of course, there's patches of blueness that we can see through the cloud. So this is what we're trying to do with our mind. We're trying to create patches of blueness through the canopy of thoughts that is constantly moving across. So this is how, I mean, we do this by meditation, and we can also do this by what Ramana Maharshi became famous for, which is self-inquiry. And actually, I've advertised tonight to talk about self-inquiry, so perhaps I'll do that. So I'm going to read from one of these texts. You can find it amongst all those other texts. It's titled Vichara, Self-Enquiry. So Vichara means self-inquiry. Fundamentally, self-inquiry is probably the last thing you can do to help yourself invite self-realization. And this is basically to ask yourself, who is this one? Who is
Да, да. М. Зайка, ты где вообще? Тоже уехала, да. А вы там не вместе, да? Вы не вместе? А что у тебя есть, а у них нету? А, я поняла тебя.
Can you wave if you can hear me? Okay, most people can hear me. Okay, good. So I'm going to repeat what I was just saying. I mean, the fundamental point of self-inquiry is that we want the thoughts to go back to the source. Well, we don't really want the thoughts to leave the source. We want the thoughts to stay at the source. And, you know, our essence is the source. So self-inquiry is looking and seeing a thought, or maybe a whole stream of thoughts rising up. We're looking at these thoughts and we're asking ourselves, from where do these thoughts arise? From where do these thoughts arise? So we're asking this question, simple question. And by asking this question, from where do the thoughts arise, the tendency is that the thoughts don't arise, but the thoughts, if you like, go back to the source. So this isn't gonna happen, you know, in one day, but over a longer time, if you keep going intensely with this inquiry, your mind will stay at the source. And the source is our essence, what in India they call the self. And earlier, Michael was expressing that he goes easily now, after a year of meditation, he goes easily to the self. And then the energy is moving strongly through his system, and it makes his head move around. And of course, it's a little bit strange in the beginning because he's used to always moving his own head. I am moving my head. And now suddenly God is moving his head. And of course, in the beginning, that can feel a little bit strange. But that's the whole effort. The whole effort we're trying to create in our life is a situation where I stop to exist, basically. Because although I'm always feeling myself attached to somebody that I call I, the reality is that there isn't anybody. So this is an unfortunate illusion, which most people are living their life in this illusion of being somebody. And when we start to meditate, we have moments where we can see the blueness between the clouds. The clouds are the thoughts, and we get little moments when everything is blue, everything is clear. So this is the whole kind of encouragement we can give ourselves by meditating regularly and also to doing the self-inquiry regularly. So I'm going to read now from this text where he's asked some questions to do with self-inquiry and he answers. So this is a little bit long. I'll read a couple of pages, I think. So he was asked, what are the indicators based on which I shall be enabled to find out for myself whether I'm doing self-inquiry correctly or not? If self-inquiry has resulted in a state of mind wherein it abides as identical with pure subjective consciousness, then you have done it correctly. However, it is not easy for the novice to tell whether his mind is presently abiding as identical with pure subjective consciousness, because the dull mental state is often mistakenly regarded as being the clean slate or the empty slate, mental state of pure subjective consciousness. So he's saying that when you first start to meditate and do self-inquiry, you may not really recognize that you're in a true empty space. It's easily possible to misunderstand that space and it, in fact, to be just a kind of dull space, sleepy space. When mind abides as identical with pure subjective consciousness, it unmistakably scintillates I. Thus, the definitive answer to your question is that self-inquiry has been done correctly when doing it has resulted in the aham sparana, which means self-realization, flashes forth. So flashes forth is what happened with Michael tonight. And then he was asked, and how to recognize aham sparana when it flashes forth. And Bhagwan's answer was, there is no possibility of mistaking it when the experience actually occurred. Whatever description is given is not only useless, but also counterproductive, because if a description of the experience is given, the mind twists and contorts the present banal experience of outward protruding, craving mental impulses into one that seems to perfectly match with the description given, because it wants to avoid getting destroyed. So the mind is, or the ego, we can say, is very easily trying to defend itself. So even if you've heard a description of the experience of aham sparana being furnished in this hall, please make no effort to recollect it. When the aham sparana actually flashes forth, you will know it outright. It's not based on an intellectual collaboration. It is a direct experience of the self, inferior only to the natural state of the yoni. So this is something that quite a few people in our community know, because many people have had a glimpse of the self. So you have a memory now how it feels when you have this glimpse. So glimpse, if you remember, is a moment when the blue sky comes through the clouds. So when you experience this blueness and you have what I'm calling a glimpse, then you absolutely know it. It's completely unmistakable. We have Nataraj sitting in the meeting tonight. He's a young man from Switzerland, about 20 years old. And in the last few days, he's had several moments when he had a glimpse. He had a glimpse. So this is very beautiful. And of course, this glimpse doesn't last all the time because the clouds come by. So clouds come, he has some thoughts again, something happens on the outside, he gets caught up in it, he gets to think again. So this is how we lose the contact to the self. And then he was asked, is the aham sparana something that is felt only by right souls? Bhagwan, yes. What are the others to do then? Ripen themselves. How? Self-inquiry is the way. I would like to ask a slightly different but related question. Please tell me how I can find out how much progress I'm making with respect to the continuous self-inquiry practice. Answer. The length of time for which you are able to keep the mind in a state wherein it abides as identical with pure subjective awareness is the yardstick by which you can find out how efficiently you are practicing self-inquiry. However, more pragmatically, the degree of the absence of both thought and mental dullness is the means to measure progress. However, the desire to progress is an obstacle. Get rid of it. Ask yourself, who is it that wants to measure progress? And now we have an interesting moment, because in the middle of this dialoguing, Chadwick, Major Chadwick, he was one of the first Western people to come to the ashram probably about the end of the 20s, I think, in the beginning of 1930s. He came to the ashram and stayed for about 20 years until Ramana passed away in 1950. So he suddenly said, I've been staying here for 3 months. I see no improvement in me. If anything, my condition seems to be taking a turn for the worse. The viscosity of my thoughts is on the wax. I'm constantly using Bhagwan's self-inquiry method. Yet there is no diminution in the strength of the army of thought that I'm attacked by day after day. I'm desperate to realize in this lifetime, or if I'm born again, Bhagwan must also agree to be born again to help me realize in the next life. Without Bhagwan, what can I do? Someone from the back of the hall called out, he is a Jivan Mukta, a liberated being. Where is the possibility of a further birth for him? Is not the suggestion absurd? Chadwick merely ignored him. And then Bhagwan said, give up the idea that you are striving for realization. Chadwick, aghast. What? Bhagwan would have me abandon the quest? Has he decided I'm unworthy to realize? Answer from Bhagwan. Did you pay attention to what was said to you? You were not asked to abandon the quest. You were asked to abandon the spurious idea that there is a you which is trying to merge with a super you. Chadwick, I understand nothing. Bhagwan, throw away the belief in the existence of the personal self. It is only on that erroneous basis that you are now asking questions. Chadwick, but I must remain to perform spiritual practice. Bhagwan, what is the objective of these practices? Chadwick, destruction of the ego. Bhagwan, no, transcendence of the idea of its existence. Chadwick, so if I just free myself from the idea that I exist as an individual person, the who am I method is not needed? Bhagwan, first discard that erroneous idea. Having discarded that idea, do not bring in any other idea in its place, such as I am being consciousness, etc. Remain free from all ideas, that is, from all mental identification. Let the mind remain in the state of pure subjective consciousness, free from all objectification or identification. Then, as and when thoughts arise, tackle them with the counter thought. To whom has this thought arisen? This arrests the further development of the thought. Then return the mind to its native state of pure subjective consciousness. This is the way. Chadwick, Bhagwan has been quoted as saying that certain qualifications are necessary for those intending to successfully pursue self-inquiry. Will Bhagwan please explain those qualifications? Bhagwan, it is enough to intuitively recognize that the three states are passing phenomena, not having any reality. But again, consequent to steadfast and unmittent practice of self-inquiry, such intuition dawns unbidden. To sit down and endlessly reflect whether you are competent enough to pursue the practice so as to result in the outcome of success, if you find that it attracts you, you can certainly go on practicing self-inquiry. Question. Before taking up self-inquiry, is it necessary to first qualify myself or prepare myself using preliminary practices such as breathing techniques, visualizations, etc.? Or can I plunge into self-inquiry straight away? Bhagwan, the best preparation for self-inquiry is self-inquiry. The other practices are for those to whom self-inquiry, for some reason, does not appeal favorably. I am a man who is utterly new to spiritual practice. Should I begin with self-inquiry? Or should I begin with an easier method, such as watching the breath, for instance, and move on to self-inquiry once my mind has acquired sufficient maturity? Bhagwan, No method is per se easy or difficult. Depending upon one's temperament, what one finds easy, the next man finds difficult. The thing to do is to stick to what fascinates you. Never mind which method is best, which method appeals to you. I like to meditate. However, Bhagwan has opinioned that self-inquiry is the only means to pierce the veil of ignorance. Bhagwan, who said I disapprove of other methods? You may go on following your present method until you yourself feel intuitively rather than intellectually that the time has come for you to give up the practice. At that point in time, the mind will automatically begin to gravitate towards incessantly reflecting upon I. Fascination with I leads to spontaneous self-inquiry. It's not done for its own sake. Sorry, self-inquiry, if not done for its own sake, does not bring forth a successful result. If a splinter of wood is stuck in your gum, your tongue will of its own accord go on trying to uproot it without the need for any conscious effort on your part. Self-inquiry will succeed only when there is that degree of spontaneity. The tongue knows that the splinter is a foreign body and must go. It will go on fighting until the alien appendage comes loose. Likewise, the mind must be able naturally to discern the ego, to which it owes its apparent existence as being an unnatural and alien entity. This astuteness will come only after prolonged practice. That practice may take up any form which appeals to you. Whatever road you are pursuing now will of its own accord lead you to self-inquiry when the moment is right, provided you are sincere and unrelenting in your effort. And then the question is, I should revert my attention back to pure subjective consciousness. What is the point of self-inquiry? Is that right? What you what you mention is without doubt self-inquiry, but there is more to it. Please explain. Once the practice of self-inquiry has brought about a sufficient degree of rightness, the mind is loath to think thoughts and is now content to remain merged in the beingness of the self. Even then, however, there is the subtle I who speculates the fact of the mind remaining so merged. Catch hold of him and incessantly scrutinize him. And when he vanishes, Jnani alone remains. And then he's asked by somebody else, I've been investigating who am I for several years. I see no result. What is the reason? Where am I going wrong? And Bhagwan, what is meant by self-inquiry? Is it to intellectually analyze oneself along the lines of the question, who am I? Isn't that it? Question was, isn't that it? Bhagwan, no. Self-inquiry means effort to trace thought back to its source, culmination of which effort is discovery of such source as being the shining of the self-resplendent heart. That is the beingness of the self. The penultimate triumph is self-inquiry, has come about when effort is needed in order to leave the shining of the heart rather than in order to plunge and merge into it. If you incessantly hold on to the source of thought, there will come a time when emergence from such source becomes altogether impossible. The embodiment of this state is what self-inquiry practice, which means continuous practice, seeks to achieve. Self-inquiry means hunting for the source of thought so that we might abide exclusively and permanently there and therein. To practice self-inquiry is simply this: seek whence within yourself it is that thought arises. Having found such thought, stay there once and for all. And then he's asked, some practice self-inquiry for a short while and succeed. Others try for decades. Their efforts are rewarded only with failure. What is the explanation? Bhagwan. What matters is extent of intensity of introvision, of mind. There must be desperation to realize the self, the thirst to discover reality, the yearning, the longing must burn brightly in the mind, burn with enough force to reduce the mind into ashes. Half-baked and half-hearted efforts are not going to get you anywhere. Once you know that all this is fiction, can you remain content until and unless reality is gained? The more actually unacceptable the mundane existence is, as opposed to the mere intellectual understanding or conceptual notion that existence in the form of the body is undesirable to you, the greater your chances are of realizing the absolute existence. Perfection in renunciation automatically brings about jnana in its wake. So renunciation means to give up the pleasures of the world. And of course, we don't like that very much. So, I mean, for me, this is a pretty amazing text. This is a pretty amazing text because maybe you found the English a bit old-fashioned and my pronunciation is also not very good. But basically, I've been saying these things now for the last 20 years, actually. And many of you have been living in the community with me for many, many years. You've heard me saying all this many, many times. And yet somehow you don't really get it. Maybe you do. So let's have some questions because I think this was a very powerful dialogue. If you like, wave your hand. Yeah. See all the hands waving immediately because you have such a absolute passion to wake up. Passion to wake up, but nobody wants to talk. Nobody wants to ask anything. Everybody's half asleep. Look at Shiva, for example, looks completely asleep. He doesn't even hear me. Okay, so Parvati.
Yes. I can say, since we are busy with this new text from Ramana Maharshi, I heard many times that you said, bring the thoughts back to the source. But I had never a feeling really to bring this together. I think I had a quite quiet mind. But if there are thoughts then I couldn't bring them back to the source. I had no connection to this both, but I couldn't bring it to a connection. And since we have this new text, it's not new, but
well, it's not very new.
No, it's not very new.
I've actually been saying this every week for the last 20 years.
Yeah, but
a lot of the time you were in the room with me. So
yeah, but now for me or for my mind or however, it is so new that I can bring it together. And also it comes much more often during the day by itself into my awareness when I drive the car. And before, I couldn't do this actively. As it was just forgotten again, and I had a quite quiet mind, so it was also not so suffering, but now I can really feel it, a huge difference. Like maybe Ramana Maharshi is now giving us a kick or whatever, I don't know.
Well, I think that might even be true because I think, you know, some months ago, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, when I was intensely involved with the Day by Day with Papaji project, which actually I haven't done much work on for the last 3 months. When I was doing that very intensely, I'm pretty sure I would have shared how I felt the presence of Papaji, actually. I often felt his presence, like, yeah, I mean, it was very beautiful, actually. I often felt very touched from that, especially when I interviewed some of his closer people. I had many really deep meetings with some of the people I didn't really know, but within half an hour, we had become very close. And now in the last period, I have to say that I often find myself at 1 o'clock in the morning or even 2 o'clock in the morning. Last night it was 2:30. I'm so engrossed in editing these texts that, you know, time goes. I mean, there's no time actually. And I also feel like in a similar way, I feel his presence. I feel Ramana Maharshi's presence. Like, it's a bit strange to talk about in a way, but I feel something like a presence. And this presence is doing sort of magic. It's like this presence is waving the magic wand, and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm editing, you know, the text. You may have noticed, well, you probably haven't noticed, unless you've read them, you haven't noticed, but if you read the text, you'll find they're full of Sanskrit. So I have to put a bracket after the Sanskrit word, and I get the Sanskrit from the internet. I Google the answer, you know. Then I have the Google page open next to me, and every Sanskrit word I put it in the Google, and I get different words, and I have to select a word and put it in the brackets, which is not always easy actually, because the beauty of Sanskrit is that it gives very subtle meanings, you know, and English doesn't have the capacity to give those subtle meanings. So any word I choose is already the wrong word, kind of, you know, it's like too rough. And then in this text, as you notice when I was now reading it, a lot of the English is very old-fashioned. I mean, I've already corrected some of this very old-fashioned English, but still there's a lot of that old-fashioned English, yeah. And I can get a modern English word by going to a kind of special dictionary, which is also open. I have it also open on my my screen. So I'm forever moving, you know, from the text to Google and from the text to this dictionary to edit the text. So maybe you can understand from what I'm saying, it's a very intense process, because I also have to read the sentences and I have to figure out the meaning of these sentences, which sometimes are not so easy. But the amazing thing is that even though in a way it's quite difficult and quite demanding, the whole thing is very easy for me. I mean, I'm not really an editor, you know, but somehow I become kind of very good editor doing this project. And I mean, how can that happen? I mean, how is it possible, really? Even I've learned how to do this project, because in the beginning, the first day that I bought this manuscript, I think it was €1. I downloaded this manuscript for €1, and it was completely impossible to read it because it was intensely unformatted. It was like 1,500 pages of unformatted text, you know, and you could get a headache just trying to read it, actually. But from that moment, I was so excited. I remember I was in the cottage in Tripelia, and it was like 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning. I was lying in bed, and I was so excited that I made this decision. I must download this manuscript. But unfortunately, I'm getting old. I don't always know how to do that, you know. So I was fiddling around on the internet and opening up Amazon when you're situated in Ukraine. It all came up Russian all the time, you know. It was all in Russian, so I couldn't download it in Russian. And then I kept on trying to get Amazon UK, but that didn't, I can't really remember now, but it didn't really work very easily. So it took me maybe an hour to download this manuscript. And then I had the manuscript, but as I say, it was completely impossible really to read it because it was completely unformatted. And then I remember somehow I knew what to do. And so I found myself, how can I say it, highlighting. I highlighted a bit of the text, and then I sent this to myself by the internet, by email. And then I put it in Word, and then I formatted it, putting spaces. I quickly decided question, answer with a gap in between. Very simple, actually. And all this happened in the first 2 or 3 hours. I was like a kind of total maniac trying to solve the problem. It was like a puzzle, you know. But I had to solve this puzzle before I ate breakfast, before I got out of bed. Probably I got out of bed at 12 o'clock or something that morning. And it was so exciting because it was like this amazing text coming out of a mess, you could say, out of a kind of mess. And now I've been doing it for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And it looks like we're now going to put a book together and publish a book. We're going to publish it as an ebook, so we don't have to worry about printing and carrying books around. We're going to make an ebook, and we're already working on the cover. Churia's doing the cover, and Om is helping me with the tech part, and Govinda is printing out the sheets. He's already printed about 100 sheets for me, and often I have to print them again because I change them a bit, and then I want to get a latest copy. So Govinda is now running backwards and forwards to the copy machine every day. So it's like a whole team effort comes, you know. It's very, very lovely and so beautiful to live in a community where this is possible. And as far as I can feel, this project of actually publishing some of this material, it may well be that we're the only people in the world who can actually deal with this project, because we have all the expertise. We've produced now so many different books. We know how to make ebooks. We know how to edit. And my ex-wife in Australia is helping me with the proofreading. So all these texts have been proofread by Carly Daly in Australia. And she also seems to be very keen. So when I wake up in the morning, I nearly always get a message from her that she sent some new text to me, because Australia is always many hours before us. So her lunchtime is my breakfast time. Okay, well, anybody like to make a comment? wave your arm if you want to make a comment. Okay, let's have Deanne.
Yeah, it's beautiful text.
Right, right.
I think
they're very,
with me.
They're very powerful, I think, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's always amazing how precise he is. It's always like out of this world, how he speaks about these things. And I'm always deeply touched and amazed how you can talk like that. It's a little bit like unhuman, like, yeah, direct wisdom.
Yeah, well, in one way, of course, it is inhuman because, you know, what's happening is that he's speaking from the divine wisdom all the time.
Mm.
So his mouth is the mouth of a man, but the words are coming from the divine wisdom, you know?
Mm.
So, you know, this is what makes it so amazing. And as you know, his daily life was very, very simple. You know, he lived on the same mountain from when he was about 18 years old until I think he was about, I don't know exactly, 60 was he when he died. So for 40 years, he lived on the mountain. And of course, later he moved to the bottom of the mountain and an ashram was built around him. So he lived his whole life in a very simple way. He used to wear a loincloth, so he was living almost naked. And he spent a lot of his time, you know, sitting in the hall, answering people's questions, or with his closer disciples, he was just sitting in silence with them because they didn't have any questions. And my own feeling or my own hunch is that this manuscript has been produced by one of his closest disciples. I don't know that, but that's just my hunch, that it's been produced by one of his closest disciples. And what's very interesting is that many kind of people, public people, seems to be picking up things in this manuscript which maybe are a bit strange, rather than picking up the kind of pearls, you know? I mean, I think what I read out tonight, for example, in my opinion, this is a pearl of wisdom because he is exactly dealing with all the details about doing self-inquiry, you know? I mean,
it sounds very like him. It doesn't sound like a fake because he's always speaking the same way somehow, and how he describes has a certain style. So yes. Yeah, it's really wonderful. Again, what touched me was, though I heard it so many times, was this in the self-inquiry when the thought is coming, this pursuing the thought to the I. Actually, I don't think it's active; it's just happening. But it's
Right.
very interesting. Yeah, it touched me deeply.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he's basically in this text, he's basically saying, you know, that when you would start to inquire about yourself, I mean, we don't know Michael, but maybe in the last year, some things have happened in his life, and he started to ask himself some questions about what's the point of his life, you know, what is he doing with his life, these kind of fundamental questions. When you start thinking about those kind of questions, then what Ramana Maharshi is saying, very quickly, you come to this fundamental question, who am I? In other words, you quickly come to this I, right? And, you know, most of the people in the society, they never think about this I. They accept the conditioning they've got in their family. They accept the conditioning of their friends. They accept the conditioning of the workplace, whatever, you know, whatever it is. Everybody is completely involved in playing this game of being a somebody. And this somebody is separate from all the other somebodies, you know? And that's the game of life, you can say. Everybody plays this game of life. And Ramana is a very clear voice saying, something very simple, which is that you have to inquire about your conditioned idea about yourself, that you're a separate somebody. I mean, in a very shocking and fundamental way, Ramana Maharshi and also Papaji, they're both saying nothing ever happened. Excuse me, nothing ever happened. So this enormous movie that you're probably running every day, you know, this enormous movie that you think is completely real is actually completely an illusion. Nothing ever happened. You never happened. You don't exist. Yeah, poor old Leela, she's coughing into her hand because it's so shocking, you know, so shocking. And now she needs water just to recover from that. Nothing ever happened. I mean, do you understand what this means? Nothing ever happened? That this whole fucking thing is all bullshit, complete bullshit. There's Raj every night watching the internet for the latest news about why he shouldn't get vaccinated. But actually it's all nonsense because nothing is happening. And by doing that, he completely sabotages any possibility of ever discovering who he is. And of course, that's his particular way of doing it. And everybody else, we all have our ways, you know, we all have our different ways to sabotage ourselves ever discovering that nothing ever happened. And nothing ever happened means I doesn't exist. There is nobody. There's nobody. And this is so shocking. If you really get in touch with what that means, if you can really get in touch with it, it's so shocking that we have created this completely illusionary nonsense called whatever you call yourself, you know, the life of Raj, the life of Govinda, the life of Radha, Kiran, you know, all these different lives. You see, nothing ever happened. Complete illusion.
But there's also a big beauty. It's not only shocking, it's also very beautiful.
Well, it's extremely beautiful once you understand, yeah. Once you understand, it's extremely beautiful. And one of the things that I found very interesting tonight was that, oh, actually, it wasn't in this text, it was one of the other texts I was doing. But if you really start to investigate all this, you have to be ready to deal with pain. Pain. It's very painful to discover that what you thought was true about yourself is just garbage. This is very painful, extremely painful. You have to be ready that it's all not going to be lovely, lovely, let's have some chocolates together kind of stuff. You know, it can be painful. It is often painful.
It is very painful, constant painful.
Right. And of course you can say that because you've kind of gone through that pain.
Yeah, going through it.
Right. Okay, somebody else like to comment on rather intense evening?
Michael?
Michael, you have your hand up.
Yes, one comment on that. I'm not sure if I really understand the concept of no self or I don't exist, but if so, I actually don't find it particularly painful, that the idea that I don't exist.
Right.
Rather the opposite. Like was said before, I find the idea beautiful, that all these funny thoughts about I'm important and I can do this and I am that and I have that and I'm better than him, I'm worse than her and so on. that all of this is just air, just illusion. I like that idea. For me, it's not painful, not at all. What do you think of that?
This is it's very beautiful that you say that, you see, and this also comes out of a certain knowing, because you're telling us at the beginning how the head movement with your head has been happening for some time, yeah, which means that you've been coming to your essence, you know, maybe regularly. So you know your essence, you know the blue sky, you know, without the clouds, you know it. So once we know it, then, as you say, it's not really horrible anymore. It's not really dangerous anymore. It becomes pleasurable, because the blue sky is always so beautiful. So once you've had this experience of the blue sky, then of course what you're saying is what most people come to, that it's so beautiful, you feel so deeply content inside that there's no question of dismissing these things. You know, you know it. There's something you know, and once you know it, then you also know how beautiful it is. And then there's a natural wish, a natural priority to invite this into your life. And this may be, Michael, why you're connecting at the moment with the Open Sky House and with John David. And you know, when you come here for the weekend, you may find that this is really something that you've invited. You've invited it.
But there must be no misunderstanding. I still have a lot of thoughts. It's just as it always was. The thoughts are coming almost all the time, and that hasn't changed much. Perhaps a little bit, except that I recognize thoughts now. I'm aware of them, and I recognize them.
Right.
But still,
right.
they are there.
Yeah, but it's okay. You know, it's okay. It's not going to change immediately. It takes time. It takes years, actually. The reality is that it takes years. I'm always a bit scary to tell people it takes years, because most people want it all to change by next week, you know? And if I say it's going to take years, I probably never see them again. So this is a little bit of a dilemma, because the reality is that for most people, but not every people, everybody's a bit different, it takes time. It takes quite a lot of time. And the amount of time it takes depends on your application. It depends on your priority. And if you don't have much priority, not much is happening. I mean, he said that in the thing I read out. He was saying that you've got to have a priority. But people don't want to have a priority because they want to go and eat hamburgers or something. You know, they have a different priority. But what's rather beautiful is that on this screen right now, there's 20 odd people who actually do have a priority to know who they are. And this is actually I would say this is very unusual and always touching for me. And I love this new Zoom meeting, because I don't know what you see on your screen, but I see all 1, 2, 3, 4. I see about 25 people all at the same time, you know? It's like a kind of rogues gallery of spiritual seekers. Does everybody see this screen? What do you see, Raj? Is it you see also the whole screen of people?
I see only you and myself a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry you only see me. If
That's
you go
enough.
if you go up to the top corner of your screen.
Yeah, but
there's
on my iPhone.
Yeah. Oh, you're on an iPhone. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you're on a computer, you can go to where it says View. It's in the top right corner. And when you click there, you've got a choice between the gallery, where you see, I see 25 people, or speaker. And speaker means I only see the person who's speaking. So I click between. But basically, I much prefer to have everybody on the screen because it's I can see how you're also enjoying listening to other people talking and stuff. So it's like being in the room with a bunch of people. So maybe you borrow a computer next time, Raj, because on an iPhone, you're a bit missing the full delights of Zoom meeting. Okay, so shall we watch this slideshow one last time? Would you like to watch this? I think it's pretty amazing slideshow and very beautiful music. We decided that this music is perfect to keep people awake when they watch and read these quotes because it's slightly kind of scratchy, a bit scratchy music. It's not so chocolatey kind of music. And we decided when we met together tonight, we quite like it being a bit scratchy, so you can't fall asleep with this slideshow. So is Om there? Can we watch it? Can you get rid of the screen of the people? Can we only see the slideshow? Can you make it full screen?
Yeah, I guess then you have to go to the upper right corner of the display and
Okay.
say speaker view, I guess.
Which one?
Speaker view.
Yeah, now I don't have speaker view anymore. Oh, yes, I do. Side by side with the speaker. No, that's not working. I think I don't have any more the choice.
Try it now.
Now I've got speaker view. Okay, now I've got it. Okay. But now I've got all the people up the top. Now I've just got you. So if you can delete yourself, that would be good.
I'm trying.
Right.
Trying.
You don't exist anyway. Ah, very good. Now I've only got you. That's not any good. Okay, anyway, whatever you can do, let's watch the slideshow.
All right.
Okay. Okay, most of the screen is the slideshow now. Okay, I think we'll finish at that point. So thank you very much. A very nice evening. I say goodbye. So we have another meeting next week, and it's on Tuesday evening next week, the 9th. I'll be in Spain then, with our new house. I'll be doing it from Open Sky Villa in Denia, Spain. Okay.